the boomers are holding on to their houses and they're not giving them up, and they're not letting the people who really need them to buy them.
These boomers are flush with cash and they've like bought their house for $40 back in 1965 and all that, but they're largely stuck too.
Houses that are meant for families, houses that people need to upsizable houses. The boomers are just holding on to them for dear friggin' life, and we want them. Sometimes they think like, oh, well, I've like bought and sold before. Is there anything I've done? But like, it's a different world.
You need an agent who's actually done these before and understands the psychology of them, because it's not always straightforward.
Welcome back to Moving Sucks. Seth, it's time to fix that. Seth and I just spent probably like 15 minutes.
Wait. It's time we fix that. You don't even know the slogan of our podcast.
Anyhow, we spent 15 minutes just kind of going back and forth of narrowing on what to talk about. We're just gonna go because we talked about how much moving does suck, but more specifically about how it sucks that supply is just so low. My thoughts on why, mostly being the boomers are holding on to their houses and they're not giving them up, and they're not letting the people who really need them to buy them. These big houses, these houses that are meant for, I can't say it's because of fair housing. I'm going to say it anyway. Don't come for me, Pennsylvania Board Commission Board, but Real Estate Commission, sorry. But like houses that are meant for families, houses that people need to upsizable houses. The boomers are just holding on to them for dear friggin' life, and we want them. And they need to downsize, or like go to 55 plus communities, or go to homes.
Don't say it, Jen. Don't
go
say
somewhere safe.
Don't say it, Jen.
Or go to the afterlife. I'm just kidding.
I knew you were going to do that.
And I get both sides. I'm just diving right into this.
Yeah, that's
I get both sides. So, yeah, it would take a lot for somebody to come to me and say, hey, I know your house is paid off. I know you don't pay a mortgage and all you're paying are your taxes. And you've lived here for like 50 years, but
yeah.
I get it. That'd be tough, because it's there's that uncertainty of well, then where am I going to go? Somewhere else. And we'll help you solve that problem too. But and I do get it. It's like you're going from years of not having to pay a mortgage and to then having an expense they didn't have before, and it should not be in that order, especially because they're retired now. It's not like they have a probably set amount of cash left that they are kind of just burning through. So I get it, but at the same time, let's find solutions for them, because boy oh boy, we need these goddamn houses for these people to upsize into and give new life to.
Yeah.
And we need them to be safe, honestly. Seth's point before we got on here was the boomers need to get into ranchers and the 1-floor living, because stairs are getting they're getting dangerous.
Yeah. I literally just had an appointment on Friday. That was, it was someone who had lived there for basically, it was their first house that they bought back in the 50s, and she fell. And so now she broke her hip. She can't stay there anymore, and now they have to sell the house quickly so they can start paying for senior living. So this is actually, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, I know there's a lot of memes on Instagram talking about how, these boomers are flush with cash and they've bought their house for $40 back in 1965 and all that. But they're largely stuck too, because the cost of elder care in this country, just like daycare, has gone up considerably. And
it's disgusting.
A lot of that has to do with insurance, but we'll save that for another time. But also, yeah, that's definitely a thing. I have my house paid off. I know this house. It's a known quantity. and I know where everything is, and
It's
people
sentimental too. I mean, I'm not gonna take that out of it. That's
kind of
kosher
mental, but
stuff.
also I think people feel safe in it because it's like, no, 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 I've always been here, and like I know the dimensions, and like I think there's a real thing about older people not wanting to move into a new place because it's just like unfamiliar, like unfamiliar space,
Which
especially
then on
people
the
who are
other
close.
side makes my heart so warm. I was in a house yesterday and I'm looking over seller's disclosure of somebody who has been living there since like 1984. And I go, oh, this bitch knows everything about this house. And that was a beautiful disclosure. It was like, has the basement ever taken on water? And she said, yes, in 1986, there was some water that one. I was like, dang, she has dates and receipts for everything since the 80s and I loved it and it makes people coming into it feel so much safer.
Yeah.
And yet another reason, offload that bad boy. Give it to
Well,
somebody else who will appreciate it too.
no, but seniors are stuck just like everyone else.
Mhm.
In an inventory crisis, it doesn't have a demographic. It doesn't discriminate from demographics. It's like there's just not enough houses. Now, you and I have been very, and we say uh, with a little bit of smirk, we both live in ranchers, and we know we're sitting on the goods because
It's a great starter home
it's a
and it's
great,
a great downsize home. There's
it's a great,
always demand for a rancher. Now imagine if the people who within the past 15 years bought their starter home as a rancher, they now had some kids and they need to upsize into something bigger. Imagine if they sold and the person who needs to downsize sold, and then they could just have this happy marriage of let's swap. It's essentially it would be putting a swap into the marketplace.
yeah. I mean, that's a potential solution, but overall, I think that there is like I said, a structural problem. Like what you started this episode with asking, like, or trying to beg these people to move, but like you're really asking people, especially grandparents of our listeners, like it's time to go into assisted living. You know,
Yeah.
uh, now with parents, it's a little different. A lot of times it's more of a financial thing where it's like, listen, you got this big, like 3,000 square foot home. You've raised your kids are in college. Like you don't need all that space, a lot of deferred maintenance. We've talked about that before on the pod. That's different. But I would also like to flip it around to the kids and the grandkids to make sure that they are doing what's best for their elders. Like I have a friend whose mother lives in a third floor condo, and like it has outside stairs, so they're
Yikes.
like those old metal, like industrial with the concrete inset, and she doesn't have the best balance. And I said to him, I'm like, listen, she can either leave there on her terms or someone else's. It's not safe when you have all
Mhm.
those stairs. I have another client whose parents live in a split. Even a couple stairs, 3 stairs, it just takes 1 step. I mean, outside, you can even trip in a rain. Like, you can trip over a carpet, you can trip over a den table or whatever, but stairs are the thing that I would say are like the baseline on, like, is it safe for somebody who's not as sure-footed as they used to be, even if they lived in there for 50 years? Like, is that the best solution? So like, what do we tell our clients to tell their parents? And there's a lot of ego wrapped up in it, like, no, I've been in here forever, like, and because people realize like they're getting older and they know that it's like the next step is to go to a retirement home or go to some, like, 55 plus condo. um and so it's not an easy process.
Well, taking away anybody's autonomy too is another pill to swallow.
Taking a pet, oh wait, what?
People's autonomy of being able to just
Yes.
like be able to independence and to do things themselves and on their own terms.
Hmm. So it's not always about medical, it's not always about financial. It's definitely, it's pride, it's ego, and it's not an easy thing to fix. There's a dynamic in the real estate market called the silver tsunami. And this is a theory that is about 15 years old, and they are thinking that, well, there's all these boomers that bought all these houses back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And where are there was going to be this massive groundswell of boomers who were going to sell because they were getting older and they would all hit like the retirement homes at the same time. The problem is that didn't happen, largely because people have made modifications to their house, but they've also found ways to live in place, which they now call aging in place. Like you can get an Uber to a pharmacy, you can get your meds ordered, delivered. You can get an Uber to your doctor's appointment. So what ended up happening during the Great Recession is that the finances got obviously curtailed a little bit. And people were like, no, we're not going to move to Florida and play shuffleboard. We're going to stay right here because the house is paid off and we're just going to age in place. So it's not an easy dynamic. I would suggest anyone listening to this who has a family member they're worried about, you kind of have to like ignore that aspect, that financial aspect, and really just do whatever's safe, because one slip could mean the end. It's really bad, or a broken hip, which then, I think there's like some stat, someone over the age of like 65 who suffers a broken hip, like dies like 30% earlier, So like if you had another 10 years, you only have like.
Like and follow us for some more lighthearted content.
No, but it's important. And this is the stuff I talk to people about, because I deal a lot with estates. I deal a lot with power of attorney, where kids have power of attorney over the parents, whether they're suffering from dementia, they're suffering from vertigo, they have medical issues, they've had a slip and a fall, they can't keep up with the house anymore, pets like, running amok in the house, like all kinds of stuff where people just can't take care of these houses anymore. So I think it's an important thing to just kind of tell people about, is to really think like long and hard whether like your elders should be in the house anymore. And that would fulfill your desire to completely heartlessly displace these people. You didn't say they should die, but you said the afterlife, I think.
Maybe.
So, you have people that you're close to, they're right in this dynamic.
What do you mean?
Own the house for a long time, not necessarily love the stairs, don't love the area they live in, would be okay with moving, but where are they going to move? They got no mortgage, right?
I mean, do you have somebody specifically in mind?
For you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know?
No.
What about your mom?
She wants to get the hell out of there.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not like I don't have to. She wants to get out of there so bad. There's so much wrong with the house. That's a cash position. That's a affordability position. Yeah, because it's paid off.
Yeah.
And
your mom is exactly the person, exactly why people stay. She's not super wild about the stairs, but she's always lived there. But financially, it's like, okay, well, where am I going to go? She's obviously not old enough to go to a retirement home.
No.
But that's the structural thing. Like if there was more money flowing around everywhere and people got more raises and there's just more prosperity, that would keep the real estate wheel moving. But you look at somebody like that and they're largely stuck. Now, I will say that I think that a big issue with this demographic is that they always think they need to buy the next house. And I would say that flexibility would be amazing for a lot of these people, where you just take your proceeds, you take your $500,000, maybe rent for a year or two in something that's safer, and then figure everything out, instead of like having to worry about going and finding like a whole other house and buying it, taking care of it. I actually had a client who was like, they have to put, even like in their 50s, they have to put their kids through school. And they're like, our income is being gobbled up by this house. I said, just sell and rent. While you put your kids through school, just rent. You don't have to worry about roofs and HVAC and maintenance. And then you have a set cost. You can budget for this like kind of phase that you're going through, and I think that for seniors, it can be really effective, where it's like sell the house, liquidate it, and then rent, and then figure out, like, do you want to invest that money? Do you find yourself that you're happy? Because you have this person who's really, really like married to the house that they've owned, and they're like, this is what I've always had. And this is like, my spouse and I bought this house, blah, blah, blah. But the idea of moving into something completely new and starting over with home ownership, I think is a big hurdle. But being able to have the flexibility to rent, figure out what you want, figure out whether you even like it there, that can be a way to jailbreak people. Plus, I think it makes a whole lot of sense, because if you can find something where the rent is like pretty manageable, because you're alone, or it's just a couple, I think it could be a really effective way to get someone out of a house, get them in one-story living, and then you never know what a year or two could bring.
Yeah. I mean, we're not totally like renting as bad agents. We've said
Nope.
before there are good times to be renting, and there are times where it makes sense to rent.
I think there's a lot of validity to renting on the bookends of your life.
Mhm.
In the beginning, when you come out of college, or you enter the workforce, and then on the way out, it's like, why wouldn't you want to have all that flexibility? Just save all your money. You don't have to like worry about any maintenance or whatever. And I feel like elders are like, you've already leveraged the home ownership piece of your life. Now liquidate the house, get out, rent, and then invest all that money, or give it to your kids. Let them buy a house.
You think any of it has to do with pride?
All that has to do with pride with the older people. All of it, and fear, for sure. And mortality. They're like, no, I'm going to sell this house. Like, what's next for me?
Mhm.
Um, but no, I really think that that's a fair place to be, and that's frankly what I suggested to your mom. I said, just rent for a year, and then you have a set cost. Like what's coming down the pike, so you can budget, you can look. You don't have a home sale, you don't have a home to sell and all that, and it really frees you up to be able to look at the whole board. But as long as you've got this house and you are locked into this idea of having to buy another house, that for any homeowner right now is a lot, because there's just not enough inventory. So I think that if had a message for our listeners, it would be like, we do have some strategies, and there are a lot of ways to talk about this with the people in the older generations of your orbit, but you have to do it the right way. And obviously, we're not thinking about estates, but like just navigating the power of attorney. Like, thank God these people had a power of attorney that I met with last week.
Mhm. I
You
mean,
know,
even if it's not a technical estate, I mean, there was the one that I was working with, the three sisters who were selling the house on behalf of their mom, where like it was like an estate or not estate where, power of attorney selling it. The mom was still alive, and like there was still the aspect of like having to tell her, "Hey, mom, we're selling the house," because she couldn't. It was the same thing. There were stairs. She couldn't live there anymore safely, and they had to get her out, and they didn't necessarily know, like, should we hang on to the house and like rent it out, or should we sell it? And they were just like, we just need to get rid of this thing
yeah,
and move on with our lives. So I'll say we don't just specialize in first time home buyers. I mean, it's like that's who this could benefit. Really, or second time home buyers, but specialize in all ends of life.
yes, yeah, and I, as the um, non-millennial by 54 days, 56 days. I'm not counting. Uh, I generally am the one on the team who handles these the most. And I have my own personal experience with my parents. My mother is exactly who we're talking about. She's never going to move. She's like, they're going to wheel me out of this place. So lives in an enormous house, second floor, master or primary. And the house is paid off. And she's just like, I'm not moving, you know? So, I've always told her, I said, yeah, she's 80, but she's still pretty able bodied. And it's like, you can stay here, but like it really, as the years go on, you really do push your luck with getting hurt, or just the overall maintenance of the house. It just
Mm.
becomes overbearing. So anyway, no, I think that this is a really interesting topic for younger people to think about. If you're older and you're thinking about maybe moving, we can talk to you about the mechanics of how that will all work, give you guys some options. But It's
And get
not.
on a call with them too. I mean, like, having a conversation with them directly, and if you're not sure how to broach that conversation with them, because I mean, stubbornness can definitely enter the mix when it comes to that, and, you know, sometimes they think like, "Oh, well, I've, like, bought and sold before, is there anything I've done?" But, like, it's a different world now for real estate and, buying and selling, and even if you can get them open to the idea of just having conversation of different options when they feel that they may not have any, but may not really admit it, um, that's what we're here for, and that
Yeah.
we have agents across the entire country to be able to
Yep.
help with, so
And with subspecialties, because this is a subspecialty, this isn't just you call some realtor off of Zillow. You need to ask if you do want to make this approach to your parents or your grandparents. You need an agent who's actually done these before, and understands the psychology of them, because it's not always straightforward. We're kind of out of time, but I have another. I have another client where the parents literally are living in their kids' living room, and they're in their 90s, and they just want to go home so they can die in this house, and like it's like very, very complicated. It's
that's so
kind of sad.
sad.
It's kind of sad.
Oh my god.
So there's all kinds of mechanics, and we're involving an estate attorney and all that good stuff. So
But I
it's
mean, we are a podcast to talk about how moving sucks and how we fix it,
yeah,
and I mean that, like, death is a real part of it, and
yeah,
just aging, and it's the whole kind of like opposite end of what we normally talk about, but it's also really important, especially because, like, even I mean, us millennials, I mean, we're starting to get to the age where, like, we are gonna have to start to know what we're gonna be doing with that. I mean, with estates, and when you're put into power of attorney and you're like, what do I do with this, and what to avoid, that could be a whole that's gonna have to be an episode all in of itself of how, like, an executrix works, and how like how probate works, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes of estates from when people are alive that they could have controlled that turns to chaos afterwards. I mean, like I said, that'll be a whole nother episode, but we cover end to end.
yeah,
So that doesn't it's not the happy side, but it's a reality. And it's, I started off this rant of, we want your house, grandma. But, I care. I do care about grandma and grandpa.
yeah.
We do want their houses, but I do want them to be safe too.
Yeah. I love that. It's like we
They're
care,
sitting
but
on gold, man. I want their damn houses. They have like the coolest houses that they bought for like $30.
it's like we care, but we still want your house.
But I do care. I promise.
You do care, Jen, and that's why you're with me.
Yep.
We all care,
Yep.
but we still want their house.
I just want their house.
All right, we'll see you
All
guys.
right. Bye.